On television network.
You got to say something. Certainly. Who's playing first? Who is playing first? What's playing first?
In the beginning, they called it visual radio because the newborn TV network simply added pictures to recycled radio skits.
Very nice.
Then as the medium began to stand on its own, originals like Lucille Ball and Jackie Gleason came forward to make millions laugh and to alter the face of television forever. By the late 50s, TV was coming in its own with its own superstars.
Don't tackle. I'll lay the eggs here tonight.
With the advent of full color in the 60s and 70s, television came into full bloom, boasting a seemingly endless array of titles and concepts. Programmers put cops, spies, and cowboys in our action shows. And they filled our fantasy slates with earthly delights, as well as tales from outer space. Through it all, they interspersed both with the situation comedy efforts that were to become industry staples. Now, television's role as a force in the 80s is unquestioned. As we head into a new season, we'll look to the tube and try to bring television's past, present, and future into focus today, Thursday, September the 11th, 1986.
From NBC News, this is a special edition of Today at Night with Bryant Gumbel and Willard Scott, live from Universal City, California.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Good evening, and welcome to Today at Night, Volume 2. It's about a year ago that we tried this thing. We did it then from Rockefeller Center.
Channel Garden, beautiful show.
That's right, and managed to survive it, so Brandon Tartikoff allowed us another hour to come back and try it again. This time we've moved our location about 2,500 miles west. We are in Courthouse Square. This is one of 500 outdoor sets here at Universal City, and if this looks slightly familiar, it should. You may have seen it back in the hit movie Back to the Future, or perhaps as a setting for Amazing Stories, for Murder, She Wrote, for Simon and Simon. It's been around a while. Any number of TV shows have been shot right here. We thought it appropriate place for us to spend the next 60 minutes talking about television. That's exactly what we're going to do with an eye towards the upcoming fall season. Willie?
You got it. What a beautiful night this is. There's just a little chill in the air. It would be a perfect night for a GE General Electric blanket. Oh, excuse me. Anyway, it is great to be here. I finally made the big time Hollywood. And you know, it is showbiz magic here in Hollywood and Universal. In fact, there's about 24 new shows will appear this season. Maybe only 6 will make it. And speaking of that, they've assigned me, I don't know why, to study famous television flops. And later on the program, I will present to you some of the shows that were the biggest bombs in television. Some I did, some I didn't. Thank you.
Let's press ahead. A check of the schedule, the quick fall schedule, would reveal that an awful lot of the new programs are comedies. And with that in mind, we will this evening talk with 2 gentlemen who are the masters of the television comedy. With us will be Mr. Jackie Gleason and Mr. Bill Cosby. We'll also get some opinions on why TV, frankly, isn't better than it is. To start things off tonight, we'd like to start at the beginning with the creative process and show you how that process evolves into a hit show as it does each and every week with Family Ties.
Alex, the Harper Preschool is one of the best in the area. It's a humanistic approach to child care based on affection, mutual understanding, and respect. Granted, you have no regard for it, but other members of our race cling blindly.
Come on, Dad, that humanistic stuff was fine for the children in the 60s, but these are 80s preschool kids. They're different. They're interested.
The script for this episode has already undergone 5 rewrites by the time it's tackled here at the read-through. This first read-through prompts a few suggestions for revisions from executive producer Gary Goldberg.
It has to be the love that Alex has for Andrew that fuels it. I mean, it's there, but I wonder if we're too precious in the beginning, you know. All right, so we're going to go to work, and so we won't see you guys till Tuesday unless anything major, you know, breaks.
When we first read the script, it can bear sometimes quite a large difference from the script we finally do on Friday night. For 2 days we work on that script, Monday, Tuesday.
Would it help at all, if, you know, to bring them in up, you guys upstage, if we were over here further and that I could depart, get out of traffic faster, you guys have a clean shot at the juice?
This is it. Wow! At the end of the day, Tuesday, we have a run-through for the writers and producers.
5, 4, 3, 2.
So, Andy liked preschool, great. Hang on, I'm sorry, page 13. So Andy liked preschool. That's great.
Yeah, I was a little nervous at first, but after a couple of minutes, he started to enjoy himself. He seemed very popular with the other children.
Of course, he gets that from me.
We then sit down and hash out our problems with the script. What works? What doesn't? What do we think we need? What do we think we need to get rid of? How can we sharpen it?
You're saying that some of the stuff gets in the way in the CC.
Right, there's stuff in there that doesn't need to be in there. I think that, I mean, there's very funny stuff with the books and Mallory and all that stuff, but I think that if you want to not overextend the scene, but really put in those antagonistic things, you know, you really got to load them up.
Tuesday night, they have a huge rewrite session, sometimes till the wee hours of the morning.
Does How Do You Feel come out of nowhere, though? I mean,
Well, Andy, it's your first day of preschool. How do you feel?
like $1 million.
How would he say just like $1 million?
Tax-free. He's got to say tax-free after.
No, we could go for another joke. So if he says like $1 million and then give Alex something, no?
No, let him say the whole thing. Let him say like $1 million tax-free.
Well, normally we rewrite half the show during the week, I would say. That's just us. We're crazed and we're compulsive, and that's an area that our, you know, insecurity, whatever you want to call it, we're excessive in that area.
Let's hear it for back to school day.
These people ever going to have a midlife crisis?
Why should they? You're always having one for them.
So I guess what we try and do is we put the scene on his feet. And you can tell a lot more moving around whether something works or what doesn't. And stuff that you would say, gee, I don't know how this is going to work. Well, all of a sudden you say, okay, I see a way to make this happen. And the director, of course, has, you know, he looks at the whole thing and not just from each individual character's point of view.
55 next?
Yeah, I'm going to be lecturing there once a week.
By the way, you're planning on having dinner here tonight.
56 next.
We have one of the best crews in television. We've got one of the best camera crews. These guys, I don't know if you've watched them. They're like, it's like a ballet, these guys. They're amazing.
No, it's not a dump to Mallory. We want to loosen and we want to hold a 3-shot. We want to hold the group.
But when Friday night comes, there's this, I don't know, there's this energy, to use a really kind of California cliche, it's like this energy, man. And they go bananas.
Today the professor asked, what proof do I have that I really exist?
Show me your phone bill.
Laugh if you want, Alex, but I started my first paper.
I shop, therefore I am.
There is such a harmony. There's such a team effort that people enjoy watching it.
So it was the combination of that funniness and the warmth, which is what this show is about, really.
It's about family. The show is about family. Meredith and her family, Michael and his family, my family growing up, I'm sure Justine's, Tina's, everything. It's just a whole family experience. Corny but true. Oh, I'm sorry.
Family Ties is one of those shows that's set, no loose ends. Everybody knows what's coming for the fall season. But as we head into the fall season, 3 questions of a soap opera nature loom large, one at each of the networks. We'll try to answer all 3, starting tonight with CBS, where the question is, how will Bobby Ewing come back from the dead on Dallas? Our industry insider, John Machida, explores the options.
Doing Dallas is like doing double takes, and the only thing we know about Dallas is that we don't know anything about Dallas. First they're dead and dying, then they're alive and living. When last we peaked, Pam married Mark, making Mark marriage number 2. That's a budding Bobby's burial. But before blinking, Bobby's back bathing bare in the bathroom. First we saw Bobby and there was no Mark, and then there was Mark and then there was no Bobby, and now Bobby's back. What's a watcher to think? Remember when Pam and Bobby split and the word on the street was that Pam and Mark were making merry? Only then did Pam's plans prematurely plummet when Mark made nuptial noises only to have her hopes go up in smoke when his plane fell off the scope. Searching high, searching low, he was a goner from the show, but alas, he arrived checking out of the clinic cured. Cured of the clinic, we can be sure about that. I'm sure we can be sure about that. Now Bobby only cut out counting on conniving a comprehensive contract constraining solo starring at the cinema. Did Bobby bop in only to bathe, or is Bobby back peeking at Pam permanently? And will Pam's passions last past Mark's merrymaking or Bobby's bedroom bedlam? Tune in and see.
We'll answer the ones at ABC and NBC a little bit later. Remember, you heard it here first. We're going to come back in just a moment and be joined by Mr. Jackie Gleason and Mr. Bill Cosby. But as we take leave of you, a little traveling music from Bonanza. It kept Pa, Adam, Hoss, and Little Joe traveling for 14 seasons on NBC. Few moments to the nerve center of this program and frankly any other TV operation. That's the control room, and we are here to talk about comedy. You know, over the years some television shows have aged well, some haven't. Changing attitudes and costs have, for example, forced westerns and variety shows to the sidelines. Despite those same changes, comedies have not only endured, they've thrived. As As evidence, we present Exhibit A, a 1950s one-bedroom walk-up in Brooklyn.
No, Ralph.
Honeymooners, starring Jackie Gleason, was the original sitcom. Today, more than 30 years later, in reruns, the show's broad-based humor endures. For Ralph and Alice Kramden, the honeymoon is far from over. For the Huxtables, the same kind of honeymoon has just begun. Witness Exhibit B, a modern brownstone in Brooklyn. Just 3 years ago, industry experts had declared the sitcom dead. But Bill Cosby not only revived it, he put it atop the ratings heap.
And I didn't even have to buy a dinner.
Since we often hear so much about what's wrong with television, it pleases me a great deal tonight to be able to introduce two gentlemen who personify the very best of the medium. Together on television for the very first time, Mr. Jackie Gleason joins us from his hometown of Lauderhill, Florida, and Mr. Bill Cosby from the set of The Cosby Show in Brooklyn, New York. Gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening.
How is it possible that over all these years, the two of you have never met?
I don't know.
Well, I work an awful lot. I do nightclubs and concerts, and Jackie, from what I understand, rides his own train. I've never stopped by the train station. I've been at the airport.
You have spoken on the telephone, though, right?
Yes, yes, because after the show became a hit, this show, I want Jackie to come back.
Jackie, I think you've been invited.
Well, it's very gratifying to be invited. The only problem is television is tough. Coming in week after week and learning 60 sides of script, that's a little tough at my age.
Gentlemen, let's
talk. That's, wait a minute, Brian, that is not what I heard about Jackie Gleason. Just yesterday, I'm serious, on this set, we were talking, I mentioned Jackie Gleason in the show that I was watching 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and how much I enjoyed him. And 4 or 5 people, younger than I, claimed that Gleason, first of all, looked at the script once, has a photographic memory, walked on live, shot the show, and went home. Now, how could that be such tough work?
Well, that's not true, Bill. I didn't go home. After the show, I went to Tootsie's.
Gentlemen, let me start from point A, if I could, as we talk about comedy and what works and what doesn't on television. If I want to start a sitcom and have it be a hit, what do I need? What are the essential ingredients?
Well, the first thing you need is clout. Because if you try to explain a sitcom to executives, you're in desperate trouble. So the best way is to have clout, and they'll accept what you want to do without you showing them. And then the audience will tell them whether it's good or bad.
Let's talk about the occupations the key players should have. Jackie, I read that when The Honeymooners was first conceived, Ralph was supposed to be a cop. Now, why did you have him instead become a bus driver?
Well, a cop has too much authority for Ralph Kramden. Ralph Kramden couldn't handle that kind of authority.
Bill Cliff Huxtable was supposed to be a chauffeur. Could he have succeeded as Dr. Cliff Huxtable has?
Listen, the chauffeur was killed at the dinner table by my wife, so I don't know what happened, man.
She told you it wouldn't work?
She didn't tell me. It was more dangerous than that, Bryant. She was an executive at the table telling me that it was canceled if I was a chauffeur.
You don't want to talk about the occupations. Let me get you to talk about, if I could, some of the people who worked with you. Now, though you both are comedy giants, you incorporated large roles for regulars in your cast. Why? Bill?
Because, like Jackie's show, it's important to have the ensemble. I mean, when Norton comes on, your heart lifts up.
Jackie, Norton was crucial, wasn't he?
Absolutely. I say he was 95% of the honeymooners. A thing that I think should be mentioned is the people that you have in a sitcom must be liked by the people who are watching. The people who are watching must care for the people that are in the sitcom. Bill has a lovely family to bring to an audience every week. That's very, very important.
Jackie, I know it comes as news to a lot of people that Ralph and Alice, in one of the lost episodes, actually had a child for a time, adopted a child, and then the birth mother came and took the child back.
I don't care how insistent she is. She put the kid up for adoption, didn't she? And I got it. I've had the kid for a week. I'm in love with her.
Why didn't you have children on the show?
Well, to begin with, that would have meant more lines to put into a script. It would have hindered us a bit because we'd always have to have the kids in the scenes. And most every sitcom has children, although at that time there weren't many sitcoms. And as Bill knows, it's not easy to work with kids. They can walk away with a scene while you're looking the other way.
I also think that Jackie is not saying something. They only had one room. You never saw that other room. when they left to go back, there was and that would have cost...
Maybe I'll do another show just from that room.
That would have cost Jackie another $2,500 to build that room to go back, and another $50 for the cradle, and he knew how much money he was going to make.
I'm glad you're looking out for financial matters.
Now, let's talk about a similarity that you both had, though. You both portray guys who really and truly love their wives. Now, why was that so important to establishing a relationship with the audience? Jackie?
Well, if we didn't love our wives, what other saving grace would we have? Why would the audience care for us? We had to be in love with our wives, especially Crandon, who was mad at everybody in the world.
No matter how much you verbally beat up on Alice, you always kissed her at the end. Was that essential?
Oh, yes. It was essential for two reasons. It is impossible to get a joke that'll top everything you've done in the last half hour. So rather than attempt that, we went to this little neutral finish, which not only served the purpose of looking for a big joke, but also, I think, was warm and tender for the audience.
Baby, you're the greatest.
Cliff, your feet are freezing.
That's why I put them over there.
Why don't you put them back on your side of the bed until they warm up?
Now they're cold and lonely.
My reason was social. I mean, with this family, the United States of America in the 80s, and so many people divorced, so many people not really knowing how to, but wanting to keep a marriage together. So many people saying it's all right to kiss, but not knowing why they're kissing each other.
Bill, Jackie called an early halt to the honeymooners because he was convinced he couldn't keep the quality at a level he liked it. How will you know when it's time?
5 years.
You're setting a hard time limit?
That's my hard time level. If you see me doing a 6-year, they pulled something up to the house in a truck that my wife said, you'll even do this one as a chauffeur.
And so the successful sitcom of the future, Jackie, will be what? Very much like your program, very much like Bill's, or something markedly different?
I think that very much like both of our shows, people in sitcoms who continually deliver one-liners is dreadful. And they give each person a joke that's in the scene. First one gets it, then the next, then the following. That isn't, it's impossible to act under those conditions, to act normal. And I think that the fact that Bill hasn't got any jokes on his show, we didn't have any jokes on The Honeymooners. It was just dialogue, delivered in a way that the people wanted to hear it.
Gentlemen, as we wrap this, I'll conclude with the invitation with which it began. Could the two of you ever see yourselves on a television show together, or is the average TV set only big enough for one giant?
I'd love to be on a show with Bill.
I'm not sure if I want to sit beside a master and work as much as I would love to watch him work. And it is my pleasure to be on this show. And my mother's watching for sure, I know that. But I'm going to, that's enough.
Mr. Bill Cosby in New York, Mr. Jackie Gleason in Lauderdale, Florida.
Oh, before we go, so long, Mom.
She'll love that.
Gentlemen, thank you. Good night.
Good night.
And speaking of comedy, what you're hearing in the background, of course, is the theme from I Love Lucy, which ran only 6 seasons on CBS, but which may never get off the air. We'll go back to New York in just a moment and talk to Gene Shalit about this year's crop of new shows. That's coming in a moment. TV season gets underway. A critical examination of what's out there seems in order. The much imitated, never duplicated Mr. Gene Shalit, who normally follows events for us on the silver screen, takes some time out from his normal chores. Take a look at what's on the little screen. Gene's in New York. Hello, Gene.
Hi, Brian. It's cutthroat primetime time this fall as some 23 new shows compete in one of the hottest ratings races in years. I've seen all of some and some of some, so here are some of the highlights and lowlights of what's ahead and what's afoot this season.
Now it's in order.
ABC's comic answer to tough guy Mike Hammer is Sledgehammer, a hard-boiled cop with scrambled brains. This guy talks to his gun. I think he's got one of his barrels missing.
We get vermin on the roof.
The pilot of Sledgehammer is funny. Now let's see if the writers get smart and resist turning sledge into sludge.
Sorry I'm late.
Late? You look about 5 years too early. ABC's Head of the Class features high school high-Q kids with a cast and teacher who are congenial. But if the writing fails, it will all be academic.
You made a deal not to write about me?
ABC's Jack and Mike are a romantic couple that TV insiders predict will be a ratings hit. But maybe they're just being carried away.
Okay, I want you to get closer.
My Sister Sam shows up on CBS, the story of a beautiful freelance photographer. Here's one just about everybody predicts will be a big hit. Designing Women on CBS. 4 femmes forming an interior decorating business and giving each other the business.
Suzanne, if sex were fast food, there'd be an arch over your bed.
NBC's Alf resembles a cross between an anteater and Jimmy Durante with the personality of W.C. Fields.
Can we discuss this over some sort of a snack?
In NBC's Easy Street, Lonnie Anderson persuades her down-and-out uncle to live in her mansion. Insiders forecast hard times for Easy Street, so maybe Lonnie should lock up that silver.
Congratulations, and welcome to the First Community Church of Philadelphia.
Thank you. Sherman Hemsley changes from George Jefferson to Ernest Fry, and his dry cleaning store has been altered into a church where he's a deacon. But he's still Sherman Hemsley.
Nervous?
Steady as a rock.
You're right-handed.
Kay O'Brien, surgeon on CBS, may be a cut above other doctor shows. Her nickname is KO. Let's hope KO doesn't mean her patients never get up. 2 ABC dramas looked unpromising from the clips I saw. Sidekick may have its sides kicked early. And in Heart of the City, Wes Kennedy leads 2 lives. By day, he's a tough detective. By night, he tries to raise his motherless children. Hollywood Starman returns to Earth 14 years later and lands on television, where he must cope with the complex problems of how to beat an egg. And you thought you had problems.
If you're not happy here, go jump out of an airplane.
Wilford Brimley is reclusive as the star of NBC's Our House. He takes in his widowed daughter-in-law and her 3 kids, making his house our house, and the ratings will tell if their house becomes your house.
I got that case won.
In NBC's L.A. Law, we witnessed Los Angeles lawyers with myriad personalities, senses of ethics and morals, and driving ambitions. Lots of upbeat prophecies along Madison Avenue for L.A. Law.
Members of the jury.
Andy Griffith, a Harvard graduate? You got that right. Now he's an attorney in Atlanta. He's Matlock in Matlock. And Griffith has such appeal that professional observers predict Matlock will successfully court the public.
Toys. Toy maker. This is a front for a covert research and development operation.
And finally, a CBS show called The Wizard about an unusually short person who makes toys for kids and secret stuff for the government. He had a promising preseason start, but once the real competition begins, we'll see if The Wizard grows on his audience. So it seems that we're in for a puzzling and interesting and highly competitive primetime TV season. Bryant?
Okay, Gino, thank you. How many of the new shows will make it? Well, the odds say about 75% of all the shows, the new ones that are unveiled this fall, will go belly up. Speaking of bellies, Willard Scott is around here somewhere. He's got the latest word on flops.
Ooh, right, excuse me. I tell you, I've just seen King Kong. He's on the loose. Actually, you know, King Kong is just one of hundreds of fantastic attractions here at Universal Studios. And you can see them all in that fabulous Universal Studio Tour. Say, did you know that predicting a hit TV series is a lot like forecasting the weather? Well, it is. When you're wrong, it could mean disaster. Now, you take tonight, for example. I mean, there isn't a cloud in the sky. It is beautiful. And it means, of course, fair weather. Not a chance of rain. I mean, well, maybe a sprinkle or two. And even so, I got my dowser, and my dowser's never wrong. If there's any rain, my dowser would know it. You know, I've got high hopes for my forecast, and since I'm always right, I'd make a heck of a TV programmer. As far as I'm concerned, anybody can do the weather. There isn't even any problem to doing it.
Talking. I don't like you, daughter Rusty. She's a too fat.
In 1952, Life with Luigi was one of TV's earliest casualties, and like the Baileys of Balboa, backfired. Choosing a hit is difficult. Why will Americans stampede to a talking horse and yet be driven away by a jabbering jalopy?
I'm different.
You're different. I gotta say that for you, Mom. You are different.
We're all entitled to make a mistake once in a while, aren't we?
Yeah, I guess so.
And that they did when they put on this comic ripoff of The Fugitive. Run, Buddy, Run was run right off the air. Some TV ideas come from the movies. Animal House was a summer sizzler in '78, but when the network versions aired that winter, all they got was a chilly reception. Delta House on ABC and Brothers and Sisters on NBC never made it to spring break. And CBS's Co-Ed Fever was kicked out of class the first day.
Relax, damn it, relax.
On the other hand, The Odd Couple made the transition beautifully. But several years after the series ended, there was talk of bringing it back.
Bite your tongue.
And the new Odd Couple, with a black cast and hand-me-down scripts, came and went. Ah, here's a brilliant programming idea. Why not put on a sitcom about the Vietnam War?
The Doc told Dinah, I specifically told Reuben to go to the Chu-Lai Cafe.
NBC expected great things after spending millions on the set of what was to be an atomic-powered super train, fueled by scripts badly in need of change.
Change? You can't change Shakespeare.
Shakespeare, it ain't. Now, what was Pink Lady all about? No one seemed to know. Maybe that's because the two Japanese stars actually spoke no English. Ah, do you remember number 96, about a condo for adults with teenage sex drives?
We haven't met. I'm Marion's husband. Roger.
Number 96 was Deep Six. junk is headed out into space. It's time to call for Quark, starring Richard Benjamin as the interstellar garbage collector.
I want this baby myself.
Mission completed.
Some of those we define as merciful deaths. As we turn our attention to other matters, it's time to answer another one of those burning TV questions for fall. This one concerns the NBC comedy hit Cheers. Question is, will Sam and Diana get back together again? Well, again, our industry insider John Machida discusses the possibilities.
In the up again, down again, on again, off again, rocky, wacky world of relationships, it was a certainly stormy session of sensational sexual strife as Sam made desperately seeking Susan sound slightly sedate as he was desperately driven by Diane's devout wishes to radically be drawn. But at Cheers, the cheering was stopped by the seasonal clock as Sam was seen suggesting a satisfactory solution to a delectably delicate dilemma. If politics make strange bedfellows, will the political pro follow? And let us not forget the mid-season malaise that minced a marriage, making Fraser Crane cross when he was axed at the altar, altering ancillary allegiances. But as Sam's response saw repercussions as a reunited representative released repressed reserve. But a congressional fling may not be the thing, as almost always aspiring ambitions become arrived allegiances. Now, what will the future foretell? Will the story twist, yield a congressional tryst, leaving Diane diced and dissected in the dust? NBC is hanging its hopes on having hundreds of thousands or millions of billions checking into Cheers. Can't you catch it?
Makes sense to all of us. We're on Universal's backlot, and our overhead shots tonight are being provided by the Goodyear Blimp Columbia. Goodyear's newest blimp has Captain Nick Nicolari of El Toro, California at the controls, and Larry Mitchell manning our NBC camera. In the background, perhaps the most famous musical signature in TV history. Cue it, George. People can tell you that's from Dragnet even if they never saw the show. We'll come back in a moment with more of Today at Night. Right after. Ever since man first changed the channel, television has had more than its fair share of critics, most of them amateurs, who have delighted in belittling the efforts of programmers, who it's been charged think profits first and quality last. Well, two who've grown used to such charges join us this evening. They are Stephen Cannell and Mort Lockman. Mr. Cannell's stock and trade are action-packed shows like The A-Team, or Hunter, or Hardcastle and McCormick. Mr. Lockman made his mark as the executive producer of All in the Family. These days, his efforts center on Kate and Allie and Give Me a Break. And gentlemen, good evening. Thank you for being with us.
Good to be here.
What's your primary job?
Script supervision, I would say, is my primary job.
It's not to please the nets?
Well, I think, you know, that you want to please the nets. You want to make certain that they're not in your tree all day long telling you how to make the show. I think you have to please yourself first, and if you please yourself and you're making a show that you feel good about, then I think you're generally in a pretty good place.
Mort, do you try to sell an idea, or do you try to respond to what the networks want?
Both. Mostly now we're all in development. Kate and Allie is in fabulous hands, and Give Me a Break has got Rod Parker and Hal Cooper, and so now I'm primarily involved with developing new shows for my company.
Who leads who? Do you respond to public taste, or does the public tell you what you want, or you lead them? Which?
Well, in the first place, part of the response is from the network. If the network calls you and says, you know, it'd be terrific if you did, we don't even let them finish the sentence. We say, oh, you got it. Sounds great.
Let's move ahead and meet the other two gentlemen who join us this evening. Benjamin Disraeli, England's famed prime minister, once said that critics were those who failed literature and art. Well, our next guest might dispute that. Let me introduce Jeff Jarvis, who writes the Tube column in People magazine, and Howard Rosenberg, TV critic of the LA Times. What is TV's rightful place in either of those disciplines, gentlemen? Is it literature? Is it art?
It's entertainment, and entertainment, like any good novel or anything else, it requires a good story. It requires... I'm tired of TV being seen as some kind of slum of American culture, and I'll compare the top 10 shows in TV with the vindication of American tastes these last 2 seasons with Cosby and Cheers and Night Court and all sorts of good shows up there. It's a better list than I find in books with Danielle Steele. It's a better list than I find in movies.
And yet of the 19 shows, I saw your listing, you gave 11 of them a C rating or lower.
Of new season?
Yeah.
But I think the public will do the same. I really think that the last few seasons, it used to be you could say on TV, you could use the audience as the excuse for bad TV. You could say we're making what they want. That's just not true anymore. Now they want quality.
Howard, you've described it as terrible out there. What's wrong with it?
Well, it's part of a system. You know, you show me somebody who likes most of television, I'll show you somebody who has a hard time tying his shoes in the morning. You know, most of television is bad, and by the same token, though, most books are bad, most records are bad, most movies are bad.
Do you blame these guys?
I don't blame them, I blame the system. It's part of a system. They're part of a system that's principal purpose is to deliver an audience to advertisers, not deliver programs to an audience. And I think that's the problem. Until that changes, and it probably never will, television will remain essentially unchanged.
I think the best shows on TV have been born of enlightened desperation. Cosby went everywhere before he came to NBC. NBC was desperate enough to say, well, why not? And I really think that's when you stop playing safe, playing to the advertisers, playing to the executives, playing to the network people, and say, this is the show I want to make, chances are it'll be a good show.
Do you make the show you want to make, or is safety the watchword?
I think primarily I make the shows I want to make. Often, you know, you don't make them. They often don't come out the way you would like them to come out because there's time problems. You're especially with a mid-season show, you're trying to get them on the air very quickly. You're trying to write them on the weekends. But what you always start out with is something that you want to do. I've always started by saying this is something that I feel really strongly about.
I ask all four of you, and this is a jump ball. Somebody take it, whoever wants it. How wide a disparity exists between what the public says it wants and what they'll really watch?
A tremendous disparity. That's the biggest disparity is that right there. All the people that want PBS on paper and how many watch it. There's nobody watching the opera.
You buy that, guy?
Those people are all alone.
You know, that's really interesting. I think television may be the only medium where a synonym for failure is 10 million people. You say nobody, I mean, that might be 2 million people. That's the problem, which, you know, Jeff and I would probably give anything to have that kind of an audience. That's one of the big problems of television.
You have that audience, Howard.
Okay. You're offering me that audience? After the show.
You'll get 2 million
after the show.
Jeff,
okay.
3. Yes, 30.
Before I turn around and let you go, let me note that the squeeze is on in television. I mean, things are changing. We've got a lot of new cable outlets. We've got GE taking in at NBC. We've got Cap Cities at ABC. We've got the problems at CBS just happening yesterday. How's the game changed? For the better or for the worse?
So far, I don't think we've seen much change except a lot of budget restrictions. You've seen the networks are jumping, down on the budgets, trying to. We really should be improving our budgets every year to stay even with the cost escalations in this country. It hasn't happened. The producers are more and more into deficit. Aside from that, I haven't seen any real changes.
Don't you think they're playing safer now? I do. I think they're paying no attention to anything. Everything is for ratings. Everything is really safe. I think the big gambles are a long way away.
Sound like you'll be sitting on this side.
Well, I don't think they're playing safe as much as they pull the trigger too quickly. I think very often a show, might have a real weird kind of offbeat quality to it, and it may take a while for the audience to catch it. For instance, Hill Street Blues took a while.
Gentlemen, I'm going to have to pull the trigger real quickly because we've got some theme music.
Where my audience?
We've got some theme music we have to step aside on. First, a taste of The Tonight Show. On the air for 32 years, the NBC moneymaker is, you might like to know, the most profitable series in television history. We'll be back right after this. Of TV production that doesn't get an awful lot of publicity is casting. But our Mike Leonard found out how important it is when he went out and talked to the stars.
Excuse me, all you TV stars, but I think I'm going to need your help on this story.
Great.
It's about the roles you play.
No problem.
And why you seem so perfectly suited for them.
Oh, it's true. It's true.
It's about good casting, and a good casting director named Lynn Stallmaster.
Why don't you tell me all you know about him?
All right, I'll do it by showing you a few of the movies and TV shows he helped cast. Each drama, of course, involves lots of bit players, lots of actors who nervously answer those countless casting calls just so they can sweat out a Lynn Stallmaster audition for that.
One line. One lone line.
What?
This waiting, this interminable waiting.
For one line in a movie?
Mrs. Newton, no. Mrs. I knew you'd be surprised.
Maybe we shouldn't. After all, this man keeps a file in his mind, on paper, and on tape.
If he likes your work, eventually someday you may be used. And that's enough incentive right there.
I mean, it's like remembering Rick Dreyfuss when he came in to read for The Graduate.
All he got was this.
Shall I get the cups?
What?
I'll get the cups.
Ah, but then came other opportunities. And the payoff that Lynn Stallmaster gets paid for.
When the door opens, who knows what is going to walk into my life?
Could it be you or me? Do we have what it takes to become a star?
Don't be silly. Of course not.
Yeah, I guess we'd be lucky to land a part in this fantasy movie, a popular attraction on the Universal Studios tour. In real life,
where the odds are staggering.
It takes a special talent to catch the Stallmaster eye.
It's almost impossible to articulate what you're feeling. I suppose it's like when you see a work of art, a painting, a sculpture.
When that happens, the actor is likely to hear someone say,
"We'll get back to you in 24.
For most of them, though, it's simply,
Bye-bye. Thank you for coming in. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Having profiled Lynn Stallmaster, we're delighted to have him join us in Courthouse Square. We couldn't resist the urge to make today the movie. Now cast it for me. Who would you cast as Jane Pauley?
Well, I don't think there's any question. We have to find out the availability of Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep?
And if we have to wait, if she's doing another picture, we'll wait.
Okay. Meryl Streep as Jane. I like that one. Who'd play Willard?
Well, for Willard, there's no contest. I think John Candy would definitely do it.
I like that. That goes over big.
Does that work?
Yeah, he's got the girth. I like that.
Can we afford him?
We can afford him. That's our big budget. What about Gene Shalit?
Gene Shalit. I think Dustin Hoffman can play any character. There's nothing he cannot create, so why not?
I like
Where's
that.
the mustache?
I like that. Put a little mustache, curly hair. How about John Palmer?
John Palmer, I think the very charming Richard Crenna.
Oh, Richard
about
Crenna.
that?
Put a little Tennessee accent on him? Yeah, that looks good. Dare I ask, who'd play me?
Mike Warren, I think, is a very likely choice, although Eddie Murphy is begging to read for the part. No, seriously. It's going to be a very expensive picture.
Mike's a friend. I hope he's still talking to me. Lynn Stallmaster, you're terrific. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I
We
enjoyed
appreciate it. We dealt with Dallas and Shears as two of our burning questions. We've still got one more. Our last one for this fall season to be answered concerns ABC's moonlighting. Are David and Maddie ever going to be lovers? Again, industry insider John Machida.
Maddie and David and Maddie, the sensational summer sizzler. Will they ever get it together before Bruce and Sybil, or Sybil and Bruce turn up the juice, tiptoeing through the tube, taunting and teasing and testing? This unconsummated couple of characters kept the tempestuous tensions tight. We've watched Wearily while writers wrote romantic rings around stars dangling from precariously paradoxical positions. First we were courted, then we were caught, wearily watching while the taunting and teasing, testing transferred tranquility to tension, opening overtures opaquely appearing through secretly sublimated sexual scenarios, while viewers viewed by serial vacillations vociferously hoping for the moment that the pairs bond, briefly breaking burdens and barriers. Brother or sister, boyfriend or girlfriend, husband and wife, the combinations and the permutations of a love left languishing lazily, while lascivious libidos waited longingly over the long hot summer for September seemed to steal the show. Will the second season see success? See it.
Our investigative reporter's been doing those tongue-in-cheek, but TV news is serious business. We'll come back to check out its future right after these messages. TV News faces some hard choices and changes, too. Our John Palmer has some thoughts on the subject. He's back in New York this evening. John?
Evening, Bryant. The most important changes in television news have been triggered by new technology. Technology that is affecting the balance between network news and local news.
Enormous waves here in Biloxi cross the seawall.
There's a revolution going on at your local television station. Satellite technology is changing what you see on TV. These are satellite news gathering vans equipped with the latest technology that allows a television reporter to go anywhere in the country to cover a story and send the report home live by satellite.
These trucks go for $300,000, some of them even more than that. But at a recent gathering of news directors in Salt Lake City, they were hot items.
The technology allows local stations to cover regional and national stories that were once handled only by the networks, making local news not so local anymore.
Sit back, light up a Camel, and be an eyewitness to that.
The network evening news programs began their dominance in the late 1940s. NBC's 15-minute newscast was anchored by John Cameron Swayze.
An American spokesman in Moscow said something's cooking and it smells good.
But now, in the mid-1980s, in this world of transponders, dishes, uplinks, and downlinks, local television news is challenging that network domination. The technology has spawned satellite news gathering services like CONUS, a Minneapolis-based consortium of 40 or so local stations that share equipment and satellite time.
The fact of the matter is that the big stations will be able to join together with the small stations and produce their own local, national, international news at far greater profit to themselves than they can experience by having a network newscast.
What about the future of the evening network news programs? Some local TV news directors think the networks will eventually be merely syndicators of stories to local stations so that local reporters and anchors can add their own voices and commentary.
Do you think in your lifetime, your professional lifetime, you will see the Brokaws, the Jennings, and the Rathers as a thing of the past? There will be no more network evening news, that this will be taken over by the local stations?
I think it's a very strong possibility. We cannot become hostage to the technology. Just because you can get a picture out of a remote location and get your correspondent from Birmingham or Salt Lake City or Walla Walla, Washington, or Omaha, Nebraska, all the way to Buenos Aires, does not mean that you're practicing good journalism necessarily.
The healthiest thing we can do in this new era is to have a very good partnership of local and national, and I think that is what best serves the viewers.
But Bryant, regardless of how all this shakes out, we're going to have more news coverage, and it's certainly going to be more readily available. Bryant?
Okay, John, thanks very much. So far tonight, in this hour, we've heard from all the members of our family, save one. We haven't seen her for a while, but I'm told that tonight she is keeping late office hours. Miss Polly, good evening.
Actually, Bryant, Jane is home. She's on maternity leave. I'm Meryl Streep.
Did you like that?
Love it.
Did you like that? You ought to be highly complimented.
If they make the movie, the Today Show the movie, I'm afraid you're going to have to play yourself. It would be much too expensive.
Thanks an awful lot. Hey, how you feeling?
I feel terrific. Staying up this late. Look at me. Jane's got a nightlife now.
You don't look like a new mom.
What does a new mom look like?
Well, I don't know. A new mom generally has baby pictures hanging on her, has fat, chubby cheeks and everything else. No?
The baby has fat, chubby cheeks.
Is that right? How is Tommy?
But it does run in the family.
Yeah,
they were 9 months well spent, it turns out.
Yeah? Oh, that's terrific, pal. Hey, it really is good seeing you. I mean that. When are you coming back to us?
I'll be back October 10th for the big party you're having for me. And then October 13th is a Monday, and I'll be back at work.
We're still trying to figure out how you have endured for 10 years. You've outlasted all of us. It's unbelievable. You'll still be here after we're long gone.
I hope so.
Hey, you think so? Hey, Meryl, take care of yourself, will you?
Thanks, buddy.
I'll see you in a little bit. Okay. That about does it for us for this evening. We've heard an awful lot of familiar themes this evening. The one we're going to sign off with is Sentimental Journey. It was the Today Show's theme song when Dave Garroway fired this vehicle up 35 years ago. Our thanks to the folks at Universal City Tour. They've been absolutely wonderful for all of us. For all of us, thanks for being here. Good night.